morning, all. Nice to have the opportunity to speak to you again, especially on this matter subject of the Transfiguration. Well, every year on the 6th of August, we celebrate the lovely feast of the Transfiguration. And every year on the second Sunday of Lent, we read the Gospel of the Transfiguration and reflect on it, to help us prepare to celebrate the Passion and Death of Jesus in Holy Week and his glorious resurrection on the Easter Vigil and on Easter Sunday. Matthew, Mark, and Luke all introduce their accounts of the Transfiguration by telling us it took place 6 days. Well, they might vary in the days. I think Luke has 8 days. I have to check that. But it's a number of days after Jesus first spoke of his forthcoming passion and death. To grasp something of the meaning of the Transfiguration, it is all important to see it in its context. That is, in the context of what happened 6 days or 8 days earlier. Jesus had asked his disciples, "Who do you say I am?" And Peter spoke up and said to him, "You are the Christ." Then Jesus began to teach them that he was destined to suffer grievously, to be put to death, and after 3 days to rise again. And then Peter started to remonstrate with Jesus. Well, Jesus rebuked Peter. "The way you think is not God's way, but man's." And then Jesus spoke clearly to his disciples and all the people. "If anyone wants to be a follower of mine, let him renounce himself and take up his cross and follow me." 6 days later, Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem, where he knew he would undergo grievous suffering and a violent death, but also a glorious resurrection. He needed to reflect on all this himself and pray about it. He went up a high mountain, Mount Tabor. He took with him Peter, James, and John. He wanted to help them to reflect on and pray about his forthcoming suffering, death, and glorious resurrection. On Mount Tabor, Jesus had an intense experience of the presence of God, and so did the 3 disciples. Jesus and the disciples heard a voice from the cloud that surrounded them. "This is my Son, the Beloved. Listen to him." As Jesus listened to these words, he knew that God loved him. He felt comforted. He felt affirmed. He knew that his Father was pleased with him and would give him the strength to face the suffering and death that awaited him. With God on his side, he could face anything. At times, life can become dark for all of us. So often, when we run into trouble, our faith can grow weak. We think that God has abandoned us. It's then we must do what Jesus did. We must pray. If we pray, we give God a chance to speak to us and assure us, "You are my beloved Son. You are my beloved daughter." When we hear that inner voice, we realize that God has not abandoned us. but is present with us in our suffering, we have really nothing to fear. And once we have come to that deep inner knowledge, a knowledge more of the heart than of the mind, the knowledge that we are loved by God and that we are upheld by the goodness of God, then all forms of evil, including illness and death, lose their power over us. We realize the truth of St. Paul's words, God is on our side. And with God on our side, we can face anything. To know that nothing can separate us from the love of God is our strength in times of weakness and our hope in times of adversity. In the face of pain, God invites us to abandon ourselves to his care. God bless. Have a good weekend. Thank you.
Hello again, everyone. Just one or two things to say. Tomorrow, Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock, we have Stations of the Cross once more. They were very well received last Sunday, and we'll use the same set of stations. And as always, we're very interested to have your comments. So that's 4 o'clock, finishing roughly at 5, a little bit before 5, Sunday afternoon. And on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, we have the 5th of our investigations into St. Mark, the Gospel. And people seem to be deriving benefit from our sessions. It's good to see people, of course, and to talk about the Gospel. And when I did this little broadcast last week, it was really before it had the news had arrived about Father Ignatius Spencer being declared venerable, and he's a bit of great passionist, associate, friend, brother in a way of Blessed Dominic. So we're delighted that the path for canonization has been opened up for him. And we do have little CTS style booklets about him, which are available as and when people can pick them up. And the Magnificat for March and Holy Week has arrived. Sister Corinne has been busily letting people know. Thanks, everyone. Have a good week and a good weekend, and we'll be in touch soon.